If you think I plan these shows by accident, you're so incredibly wrong. When the Pac-12, RIP, imploded because of USC and many other things, the rivalry that had started to manifest between Utah and USC was rather profound. It was going to continue to be great. You had contrasting styles. You had big time matchups. You had a little bit of back and forth on and off the field. It was starting to get good. And then, of course, they went their separate directions. But let me start with Utah here. Utah is a family's dog. Like your friend's family has got the dog that overall is okay. But if you don't quite approach it in the right way, it's gonna bite you. Or it's gonna snap at you. It's gonna bark really loudly. If you make it feel like it is not in a safe place, it's going to get very defensive very quickly. There's another animal that I just really don't like that I could mention on the show, but I'm not going to do that. So I'm going with the dog metaphor here. Utah, after losing to BYU, has been, as that dog, backed into the corner, and now they are not all bark and no bite. Utah in the last 2 weeks since losing that game, which absolutely ripped the collective heart of Utes fans out of their chest for a second straight year. Utah against Colorado and Cincinnati, two different caliber of opponents. They looked about the same against Utah at Rice-Eccles because the Buffs lost 53-7. That's one thing. I saw that one coming. I did not see last week coming. Good vibes for Utah here. Good game day in town, ranked opponent, undefeated in the Big 12, Cincinnati. And the final score goes 45-14. Everything went well for Utah in this game. Early on, it looked like Cincinnati was hanging around. Things were going their way. Nope. Devin Dampier just has to have 200 yards passing, and the offense will do enough, and they will run the ball. And when Utah gets into this sort of headspace, they're just a dangerous football team. Their last three opponents, they're on a bye this week, are at Baylor, Kansas State, at Kansas. There's no guarantee Utah will win all those games. Lose one, you're done in the college football playoff. But if you win all three, should 10-2 Utah get into the playoff? My answer is the consideration should be there. Last year, BYU didn't get that benefit of the doubt. I think that was wrong. I do. Not that they shouldn't have been, not that they should have automatically been in the playoff, but they had a case. They had an argument. Utah will have a case. Utah will have an argument, so long as Cincinnati keeps winning. If you're a Utah fan, you want the Bearcats to win every game from here on out. Heck, you might love nothing more than for the Bearcats to wind up at 10-2 and with only one loss in the Big 12 because their other losses to Nebraska wind up in the Big 12 championship game. To be able to look and say, hey, see that team that's playing for a conference championship? Or better yet, if Cincinnati were to win the Big 12, beating BYU or Texas Tech in that spot, and you could say, hey, we've got a 45-14 win over the conference champs and a 3-point loss on the road to BYU. There are other losses. This is one of the fun things about this year's selection of teams that the playoff committee is going to have to evaluate, is they're going to have to weigh some pretty notable losses on resumes that don't look good. What do you do with Alabama losing to Florida State? Florida State won their first ACC game over the weekend in 2 years. What do you do with that game? How does it punish Alabama? What if they get upset somehow by Auburn with interim head coach DJ Durkin, who's looking for a signature win? What if they somehow lose to LSU? You know, what if that happens? They have too many quality wins, but do they get a home playoff game? I don't think they should. If they go 11-1, sure, I'll give you that. But, go to the SC championship game and all. But what if they don't have a conference championship? You look at Notre Dame. Notre Dame lost to Miami. That doesn't look as good. Miami and Notre Dame currently have 2 losses each. Miami beat Notre Dame head-to-head. The Hurricanes' losses, though, are much worse than Notre Dame's losses. How does that get evaluated? I'm not entirely certain. So going forward, these are the sorts of conversations that are going to be had. Utah's lost 3 points on the road at BYU might hold up very well. But what does the committee do How many of them actually watched, paid close attention to the game against Texas Tech, which was closer than the final score indicated? But does that matter? Or does it not matter? I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how this goes. But Utah as a playoff team is a thought I can absolutely entertain. Automatic? No, I don't think so. I think that Utah and Notre Dame are in the same sort of camp. You got to win your next 3 games. You got to look impressive doing it. Wind up at 10-2, and then get some help along the way. Now, as I always say, help is often given to those in college football that hold their own. So hold your own. Be on a 5-game win streak. Throw a couple more dominant wins in there. Utah is a good football team. Really, really good. I don't think they're locked to the playoff. So then you get to USC, who plays Northwestern this week. Last time out, of course, they beat Nebraska on the road. They play on a short week the Northwestern Wildcats, who are a sneaky, interesting team. David Braun, I think, has saved his job there in Evanston, and good for him. Can they go on the road and beat USC? No, I don't think so. I don't believe that they can. But USC, to me, is a far more surefire win the rest of your games you're into the playoff than Utah because of what remains, because of the wins they'd have. And neither loss for USC looks like a disaster. Illinois, they won last week, pulled away from Rutgers eventually, and USC lost on the road by 2, and Illinois is probably going to end the year 9-3 and ranked in the top 25. The other losses to Notre Dame, who everybody's got ranked, because Notre Dame's a really good team. They just had a couple tough losses early in the year. So that's what USC's resume looks like. You combine that with the fact that their remaining schedule is Northwestern, and then Iowa the following week, and then at Oregon and UCLA. So Northwestern, UCLA, they shouldn't have a problem. Rivalry games could get crazy. I think they'll be fine. Iowa, good team. Don't know if they're winning at the Coliseum. At Oregon, if USC goes and wins that game and is 10-2, I don't think you can leave them out of the college football playoff. I don't know how the committee would possibly do that. And if you're worried that the committee has big brand bias, and I think last year's ultimate college football playoff selection group of 12 teams puts that at the very least in question, well, then you'd probably feel like USC is going to get the benefit of the doubt. Or maybe they don't have that sort of brand power anymore. Bottom line, though, you can't with USC's resume, with a road win at Nebraska last week, who's not a great team, but is a good team. The win over Michigan continues to hold up well over time. The Wolverines, I think, will be 9-3 and in the top 25, and they beat them by 18 points. If they were to win their next 4 games, they'd get in. If they lose any of them, they're probably out. I don't think 9-3. I don't want a 9-3 team to ever make the college football playoff because I don't want that NFL style leeway to be given to teams and still have a chance to go win the national championship. It's just not how I'm wired as a college football fan. So I think between these two, there's some similarities. But with Oregon on the road still on there and Utah not having a team that is ranked in the top 25, nor should any of them be ranked. There's not even an argument. It's not like they're playing, in Iowa or Washington before they finally got in the AP poll this past week, where you look at it, you go, okay, that's an unranked team, but boy, it's a really good team. If you're Utah, you need Cincinnati to win the rest of their games. You need them to win the Big 12. And if you could hold a 31-point win over the Big 12 champions, over the committee's head on your resume, yep, that'd be compelling. And that'd be a path to the Big 12 getting 3 teams in. I don't know that I like how this shakes out for the Big 12. But for USC, yeah, I think the Trojans, if they win their next 4 games, they're in. I don't think there's any way you can keep them out. Not if you throw a road win at Oregon into what is already a good resume. So, Utah, USC. Playoff hopes, very real, better for the Trojans.